Hello everybody and welcome to our today's Vaadin webinar. Today we are talking about Vaadin 8, which was a major release that we had for Vaadin Framework, and for me personally at least it has been maybe even the most significant release that we have done during my period in Vaadin, and I have been here actually for a decade already. So I have seen quite a lot of changes for Vaadin Framework. So we have had multiple iterations over the client-side technologies that we have used to kind of render the application. Initially we were almost like JSF, so we rendered all the pages on the server side and served those, and then we went for JavaScript Ajax, and then we went for GWT, and now we are kind of transitioning to web component-based rendering. But now finally in Vaadin 8 we actually touched the most relevant part in the Vaadin framework, the part that you as a developers always, like on daily basis, you work with the Java API, the part that actually kind of shields you from the technical difficulties that you typically have with Vaadin, with web development. So you don't need to think about the communication or browser differences and things like that. So that's why I think it was about time to kind of concentrate on the Java API. And actually the Java API has been almost the same for the last 10 years, but now we made quite significant changes for the actual data binding APIs, and we were able to take a lot of good parts from the Java, how Java has been developing. So there has been much better collections frameworks and generics and Java 8 lambdas as well, and a lot of other Java 8 goodies that we now can use with all the Vaadin 8 APIs. And even though it has been very big thing for me, this Vaadin Framework 8, but I think the actual framework team, the developers, they have had been pretty long days, I think so. Or how do you think?
Yeah, that's true. It's been quite a long project, started from last summer.
Yeah.
But actually, in terms of the previous releases, it's not maybe the longest one. So the development of version 7 took much longer, but this has been quite intensive 6 months or so to develop.
And you nowadays have a pretty good team. So Pekka Hyvönen is one of our core developers, and you have how many persons working daily?
We had 10-ish for the project, now a bit less again, and
then of course lots of other persons who are working with the commercial things, and of course open source contributors as well.
With the framework team, we just handle basically the open source part, so which is the framework itself, plugin integrations like Maven Eclipse plugins, Spring CDI integration, and then we have the context menu add-on also there. Yeah. So that's all the responsibility of the framework team.
Yeah. So all the open source Java stuff that we do in Vaadin practically.
Yes. And we have our own teams for the commercial tools also.
Yeah. So what we are going to do today here with Pekka is that we will first check out and discuss a bit about those main conceptual changes that we did for the Vaadin 8, and then Pekka will show one kind of the most interesting stuff, like getting rid of the container APIs.
Yeah, extreme use case of making life really easy for the developers.
Yeah, how much Vaadin 8 can actually help you in your code. And then we will do one like a full application conversion. It's actually the guide that we have on spring.io/guides. There is a Vaadin guide, and this is the application that has been there already with this Vaadin version 7, but now it's also upgraded to Vaadin 8, and we'll see how that happens. So we will see how to do the migration for your application.
Yeah, that should be also hopefully easy enough, but we'll get to see that in practice.
Yeah. It will be very easy to get it up and running, and then you can actually kind of gradually start using the advanced Vaadin features.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vaadin Framework was released like exactly 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now there is actually already the first bug fix release.
Yes, and we are really working hard to get the second one also out this week.
So of course there are some
we are
0 bugs, that's for sure, but you are actively working on those.
Yes.
And by the way, what are you working on, like the new development side?
Well, actually we are also have started the progress for 8.1.
Yes.
Because some of you may know that we didn't actually get everything done for 8. because someone might be wondering that, hey, what happened to the tree component or tree table component? But we are actually working on that, for instance, currently.
Yeah. So there is still these three components.
They are in the compatibility packages, but so you can keep using those as you migrate.
But it's still this kind of container.
But it uses the old APIs, and now we are working to build a new API for those. And well, the tree grid is actually a new component in that sense also.
Yeah.
And that's one big improvement that will be in 8.1, but we also have plenty of other features for that planned. One is components in grid, which is basically to make the table component completely not needed for any developer.
Yeah, that's maybe the most asked questions nowadays. When I talk to like community members, they always can we just get those components there?
Yeah, it's been a bit sad that it was left out, but there were reasons back then because it was thought that the using of renderers with grid is easy enough, but that hasn't been the case, and it's for simple or small grids it's really handy to just get the component anywhere. Very
efficient, like for the client-side rendering part.
It's anyway much faster than the table was with that. And then, talking about grid also, there will be drag and drop support for grid rows.
Yeah.
And with that also we have built API to server side for using HTML5 drag and drop support on any component, basically. Yeah. So, I'm not going to go into details what that means, but it will be much easier to build drag and drop related features than what it has been before, just from server side code.
Yeah.
And then we are also looking at the portal support, OSGI support, and improve that for 8.1.
Yeah. So OSGI support for portals, that's important for
LiveRay users, but yes, also other environments.
Yeah, so that will also be like some help for the OSGI users who are not using LiveRay.
Yes, and it's not going to be just LiveRay specific, it's going to be purely, it's going to build on top, the LiveRay support will build on top of the OSGI support, because LiveRay 7 is using OSGI. So
okay, but let's go to the Vaadin 8.0. So what we brought in for the Vaadin 8. I actually, when I drafted this blog post for the Vaadin.com, I actually got quite small list of features here because we did so much. So I wanted to kind of get the main points. So one was the modern type-safe Java API, which is optimized for Java 8. And this has been kind of my favorite. I've been actually using this quite popular add-on as well, where I have been using typed APIs for all Vaadin fields.
I've used that add-on also before Vaadin
8. It's pretty handy. And now kind of this same concept is brought to the core framework. So you had some example where we could actually see and how this actually affects your code.
I have a really kind of extreme example into like how much can change between using 7 code and version 8.
Yeah. So let's look at
if we look at my screen, so I have a really simple, I just have a combo box in the screen.
Yeah.
And it's showing a list of persons with the first and last name visible. Yeah. So like this is as simple as it should get. Now if you look at the code, actually here I have the code to create that combo box. So now when the actual data is fetched from the backend, so it's a list of persons.
Can you zoom out just a bit?
So a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said, you need to populate a container just to show that list of persons in the combo box because of this requirement that you need to actually modify the bean or the person object to combine the first and last name.
So you have actually 2 containers. You have bean item container, then you wrap that into generated
the way that container. It's handled in 7, because this is added later on the container API. So we created the generated property container just for this use case.
And still to actually get the filtering work there.
That's quite a lot. And then to get the filtering work with combo box, it's actually even a lot more to add. But let's not go into details. So this is the old stuff. Yeah, this is something that
we can just say that we are sorry for this. Let's get rid of that.
I mean, now with the new major version, you can really look things fresh and not think about the old stuff that you need to support.
And in a native Java way.
This wouldn't be possible, of course, without Java
Maybe
8.
Just comment that out so we can see the old version there.
Sure.
Comment that out.
That out. now I have the old combo box import there.
Yeah.
I'll just remove that and switch to using the new combo box. So I have the compatibility package here in my POM file. So this means that I have both combo boxes, the old 7 version in the compatibility packages with the v7 prefix in the package names, and now I have the new one here. So I'll switch to using the new one, and as I said, this will now be typed.
Yeah, so in all value change listeners and all those,
Yeah,
you can get rid of
everywhere.
casting.
Yeah, it's not for object, it's always about the type of the component or the type parameter.
Now you need to guess what is the item ID's type or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Now it's just the value itself and that's typed.
Yeah. So, okay, now I have a combo box, and I just to set items for that combo box, I call the set items. Well, this actually was also present in 7, but to actually get the caption working, you needed to do all those other things.
What that practically done, what it did behind the scene, it added item IDs to the container.
Yeah, and it's a long story.
Totally non-typed
but it's
values.
It's basically just because we have the property, the item, and that's how it worked. So it was good solution maybe at that time, but now we can go forward. So now I have the items in the combo box, but now if I want to modify the item caption.
So by default it's using toString method there.
Yes, and for combo box, so I have this set caption generator, item caption generator.
Yeah.
So it's a actual functional interface which gets the version object, and now it just returns a string.
Yeah.
So you can do whatever you want. Maybe I can change the ordering, so I'll get the last name and then at the first name there. So we can actually change this, see that something has changed at the screen.
Yeah.
And now we see that it's there.
Yeah.
So
Super
quite
easy.
a drastic change. I can try the pressed actually back there. So I can try the filtering. So last name 1, and filtering still works as previously.
As it should.
Yeah.
So.
But this is an extreme case, and this is just one example of what the new APIs make it much easier to do. And this is just, we picked this because it's quite extreme case, but it's all around the APIs. It's just faster.
Yeah. At this point, we could actually talk a little bit about the containers. So quite many of you have written a lot of custom containers for backends. So what about what's gonna happen to those now? Like if you have been using JPA container or whatever, your custom lazy loading container, or
well, of course it depends kind of. If you are using SQL container or JPA container, you can use those from the compatibility package as you migrate. But actually what you want to do when you're developing new stuff, you want to use the new data provider API to build a faster lazy loading solution that directly hooks to your backend and only fetches the data that's required lazily. And that should be now much easier than with the container API, because it's just about using a couple of callbacks.
Actually you can just pass those, what we had actually in the Veritim add-on, only those 2 Lambda expressions to get
So that's actually the callback backend data provider. That it's just 2 callbacks that you specify, one for getting the size and one for fetching the actual items for a certain subset of the items, together with filtering and sorting in that. And then you can use those with anywhere else or everywhere where you used a container. So any component that shows a set of data, we call that listings now. So grid, all the select components and such.
So getting rid of those should be pretty easy now.
Yes, it should be
much more easier than to write those long list of methods that you need.
While we don't have
containers.
Inbuilt versions of different data provider implementations, like one trying to integrate to Spring Data or something with JPA. We've tested and it's possible, but it's usually just that
it's just a matter of
doing and basically it's so easy to get started, and when you have your own domain model, you want to do things a bit differently. So while there are no built-in like a SQL data provider, it's quite easy to do it yourself. And you do it usually once per project.
Yeah.
And then you reuse it everywhere.
Yeah, there was actually a couple of questions so that I get some kind of examples of these, and we will be working a lot of this kind of new examples with this kind of getting rid of SQL container and getting rid of JPA container and this kind of examples.
We have a couple of examples actually available online. One is for actually like using REST, consuming a REST data provider.
Yeah.
Another one for Spring Data, as I mentioned, and then also like this as the SQL example, so having a relational database.
Let's paste those links to the forum after the webinar, and then we'll continue on the REST examples. Okay, so let's start to convert this Vaadin 7 application that I have running here for Vaadin 8. So actually, just before that, let's check out this web page. So actually, from the release blog post, I referred to this what's new page, and here we have 21 improvements, but that's not the feature count of Vaadin 8, so it's of course much more. And here we had a couple of examples. Actually, there is the one that you showed there, and then there is a lot of various examples. So check this page if you want to see kind of the highlights of Vaadin 8. But if you really want to get all the list that what have changed, then you need to go to the release notes practically, or GitHub.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're not convinced, please visit this page because it's awesome. It shows really fast that how much advantages you get from switching to 8.
Exactly.
Even though you would have to migrate an existing, you still should be quite convinced that it should be worth the while.
So here we have the actual Spring-based JPA Crud application, and it's running on 7.7.6 at the moment. And
so this is from Spring.io/guide.
Guides. Yeah. Okay. So this is the application that you write there if you want to go through that guide, and you will build on JPA. Spring Data JPA based backend. You will have you can really easily switch this to use like a real database somewhere, and then it has a small Vaadin Crud there. You can save and edit entities. You can filter them by the last name here, and add new customers and all that kind of stuff.
All right.
And
so this is for using version 7.
Yeah, it's using version 7 at the moment here.
All right. But it's actually already available for 8.
Yeah, in there, but let's just do it here so you can see how it actually happens when you want to convert the
if someone wants to use it or check it out, they can go and see how it works with 8 directly. Even
though I'm working on the marketing nowadays, I know that we are going to start by upgrading the Vaadin BOM version to latest Vaadin version that we have.
Yeah, so then you get all the updated dependencies.
All the updated, but the problem starts here. So first, we have a lot of errors. So if we go, for example, to custom editor, we see that there is no bean field group anymore available.
Yeah.
And this is available in this
compatibility package.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna use NetBeans here to get it.
That's some IDE magic to get the dependencies sorted.
Yeah. So now we have it here. We have it here, and actually NetBeans adds the version here as well, but we don't actually need that because that comes from the BOM XML or the Vaadin BOM.
Yeah, the bill of materials.
Actually, in Vaadin 8 we changed also the BOM otherwise as well. So
yes, it contains now it's not strictly to 8 related change, but now we are trying to make it so that whenever we release a framework, as we release a new version of the BOM, it automatically gives you the dependencies to use with that framework version.
Yeah.
So for instance, for any
CDI
add-on CDI and Spring add-ons, a context menu and such. So then when you just update the BOM, you get all those dependencies. If you are using them in your project, you get them automatically. And of course, you can overwrite them locally as
here.
You had
but this will cause errors because that's Vaadin 7 compatible version. So let's just remove that, and now it's using the latest known version. With
that's 2.0 actually for the Spring.
Yeah, and one thing that we need to remember with the compatibility servers that we also need the client side. So we made some changes to the client side as well, although the focus was on the server.
Yeah, there are some not that visible changes, but I mean, all the legacy components, would I say, we have wanted to remove some code that has been like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And we wanted to remove that because it's been there for just supporting IE6, for instance. So we had to do changes there because now was a really good time to do those.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And now we have also the client-side classes there because I added this dependency there.
Yeah.
And now it's still red, so
Yes.
it doesn't find it, but we had this compatibility package, so it's actually
so
real
as
Java
I
package.
actually showed, there was this v7 prefix for the package
Yeah.
name. So now you should update everything, all of your imports to
So-
that, but that's actually nice because we have a handy way of doing
Okay,
that.
so this was related to the Maven plugin
Yeah,
again.
with the Maven plugin, we actually, this is funny, we added it at the really last minute before the release that, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you could just run one command and get this migration tool, which we had, okay, migration tool we built early on, which just goes
and
through the
that's
files.
actually still available for non-Maven users.
Yes, that's true. It's available, well, there's links in the migration pages, but yeah, so you can run it on any non-Maven project also.
Yeah.
But then we just realized
basic
that,
command line tool.
yeah, and it goes through the files and updates all the imports
Yeah.
for the corresponding compatibility ones,
Yeah.
so that you get your code builds basically.
Yeah,
When you
but you have to download it, execute it.
yeah.
And
And
now
for
I can
Maven
just-
users, this is
Now I can just click on my
Yeah.
Vaadin upgrade 8
Yeah.
target. So this is cool. You can run it this, of course, on the command line as well. But now it actually changed that it changed 6 Java files. I scanned 6 Java files and made some changes, and now my project compiles.
so if you're using Designer, it also goes through the design files and updates the
yeah,
package
so
states.
there were some changes in design files as well. And
Well,
those must
they
note-
use they reference the component there with
Yeah.
the package name, full classified name for the package. So those also need to be updated.
Yeah, so do this also if you're using Designer.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it updates the declarative files.
Yeah. So if you try to open like Vaadin 7 design file in Vaadin 8 Designer, it will complain you to kind of it's incompatible, but this script will do the conversion.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have the new version. We can let's actually restart the application. Make it a clean build and run it. Run. And now if we go to the browser and try to reload it, we have it up and running, and now it's going with the latest and greatest Vaadin 8 version. So
Yes.
practically the same application. We didn't need to do manually any code changes, but still we got it up and running.
Just so you basically had 3 steps, I
Yeah.
guess, to add the package compatibility package server, and then the client side, and then you run the target.
Exactly.
And yeah, you changed the Maven plugin version. So
Yeah.
3 steps kind
Yeah.
of in total.
Yes. Pretty easy.
Yeah, there might be some cases that you have to do a bit further changes, but most commonly you don't have to.
Yeah. Okay. So let's actually start to take the advantage of this new API, the real good parts of Vaadin 8. So I think we will start with the UI class because that's what we always start. And we have some deprecated classes here now. The container, get rid of that.
Yeah.
And get rid of. Let's get rid of all the deprecated UI. And this font awesome is also deprecated.
It's deprecated because, well, it's been in the framework included this icon set for a while, but now we actually decided that we will bring the Vaadin icons to the framework.
Yeah.
And because we want to update the Vaadin icons and promote them, we decided that we will not be adding new font awesome icons to the set. Instead, we will update the Vaadin icons because we are managing those ourselves.
Yeah.
So
But
by default,
this one is still available.
it's still available by default, and you don't have to do anything to disable it if you want those, because they're not just loaded by the browser if you don't use them. You get Vaadin icon set available there in the Vaadin server package. So you don't have to add Vaadin icons as a separate add-on anymore, but you can directly just use those.
So let's not change those because that's not so important for me.
Yeah, it's about icons.
Yeah, so Crud, we need to import the new version from
not v7, yes.
Yeah. And typing.
Type it with...
So we have a customer object here, not persons.
Almost persons, but not quite.
Yeah, and then, well, let's import the text field as well, but let's go...
You imported the wrong one.
Now I took the wrong one, yes. Let's take that one. And then where do we actually configure the Crud? Yeah. So let's look at the listing first. So we have a Crud here, and we have a container data source.
So it's using bin item container with customer and
Yes.
just pushing all the data there.
Actually, we didn't. The grid is somewhere instantiated here. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
So let's use the diamond there and give the customer here. You can do it without the actual class type
so,
now.
Yeah, this is like being grid, so it takes the properties from the type of the grid, and it automatically adds the columns based on that.
If you don't want to pass this, then you could just configure the columns manually as well.
So grid add column, and then you just specify any column based on the bean. So basically, you get a bean and you provide the value as a return type for the first
functional interface, getting something from the customer. So we could add there like customer and get first name, last name, whatever we add there. Yeah, and that would do pretty much the same as we do here.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's not change that there. So, but let's change the population. This is more interesting. Grid set items.
Yeah, so now
practically the same thing that you did for the compo box there previously.
It's
repo find all.
Yeah, so this is just using in memory all the items from the package basically.
And here we could do it lazily as well. So grid set data provider.
Data provider.
And I would definitely use this. So
yes, callbacks to fetch.
One callback to actually get the kind of pages from the backend, and one callback to get the size of the
the whole size of the data, because grid needs to know that.
Yeah, because it does this like lazy loading from the server side to client.
So anyways. It's only requesting the items that are visible currently.
Exactly. Yes. So there is kind of two levels of lazy loading always in Vaadin.
Yeah.
The one from the server memory to client, and also from the backend to the server memory.
Yeah. But now we're not using the ladder because we're using in-memory data.
Let's keep it simple. This is very good solution for places where you don't have millions of rows there, or just a couple of users.
Yeah.
And also using this in-memory style, like a bin item container in the previous version, this is now much more efficient.
It's faster and also much more consumes much less memory.
Yeah.
So it quite much better.
Yeah. So now we have tackled the grid, but we still have some changes. So layouts. So there are practically the same layouts there. Not too many changes here. So all right. The layouts, vertical and horizontal layout, we changed the defaults for those. Yeah, so actually they are here.
Now we can really see them, because this is what everyone was doing all the time when using those layouts basically, and now we just make the default settings to spacing and margin, that you don't have to write that code anymore.
Yeah, and actually because you have those defaults now, you can often get rid of these like local variables as well. So now
you could actually just inline all those.
Get rid of that and put that in line there, and actually we don't need the main layout either, so we can just grab that and put that inside there and then format. Okay, it doesn't format, but you can do manual formatting here to kind of get an easier view on what actually happens there. So now you can actually format it so that you can actually see the actual component structure pretty easily. So much more readable code.
Yeah, it would be nice if to get it out of the ID, but automatically.
Yeah, I think it might happen actually with Eclipse. Yeah.
So, but then with grid you need to remove some things there.
Do I? No, I didn't.
Oh, actually,
yes.
set columns.
Yeah, because we are passing in the customer type here, so we can actually use the
So this map to the properties in the customer.
The same property names there. Yeah. But if you want to get rid of this kind of string-based mapping that you do in all the Java applications still, you can get rid of it now with the method references, but on the other hand, then you need to declare each and every of those columns separately.
When you use the value providers to configure the columns, you can still give an ID for the columns that you can easily fetch them from the grid. So get column with ID, and that's string based. So you can still map them if you need to later on
configure
the column, change something for the column. So you can do that with the set ID for the column, and then just get that from grid.
I think we have talked enough of grid, so let's get to the filtering. So there's quite a lot of red there actually.
Yeah.
Input prompt.
So first that's changed to placeholder.
Yeah, so that's practically the same that is in HTML5 standard.
Yeah, because it's actually now using the HTML5 placeholder in all the places.
So there is actually a client-side change as well, but the
yes.
visual appearance is exactly the same.
It didn't exist when it was built as an input prompt. It didn't exist yet in HTML, so now it's there.
Same thing with a bit more modern technology, and now with the same API as in HTML.
Yeah.
5. Okay, and then text change listeners, they are gone as well. So I should use something else here.
Yeah, actually there is a text change listener.
No, there is a value change.
Oh, sorry.
So instead of text change listener, which was kind of getting you the kind of immediate input, changing all the values while you are typing there.
Yeah, but now you can actually change the mode of change the mode that when it submit those. How eagerly the text will submit those updates.
So let's make the same code here, list customers, and from the event you get you can actually get the old value as well.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of my favorite
small
additions, but will make a big difference in your actual Vaadin 8 project, because in lots of cases with my Vaadin applications, I needed to override something in the component to get actually the detail that did this value change listener. Was it
coming from client side? Is it user based?
Is it user based or is it from
so you don't
myself?
Want when you update something from server, you don't want all the events to fire because you have these listeners, and then those listeners would have maybe some checks there.
Yeah.
Or you would have some boolean somewhere.
Yeah, I actually should have definitely added this to the 21 first.
Oh, it's not there.
Favorites. Yeah, it's
going to 22 now.
Yeah, I need to change it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that should do pretty much the same. No.
Not yet. Change listener.
So I need to change the mode still, because this would now be fired only when you get
so
out
only
of
when
the
after blur event, for instance, you stop typing.
So set value change
mode.
Yeah. And that's the default, and we'll use lazy.
Right.
Couple of options.
Yeah, so there's a delay.
Yeah.
And now it's using the value change listener, so that's the listener for all components that show a value that you can get, so it's nice.
And can we use value change listener also for Vaadin Grid?
Yes, you can. As you see, it's already there.
Yeah. But we can use it also as single select.
This is a kind of might be confusing to some, because previously Grid had these single and multi-select APIs, and now we changed that a bit because we didn't want the Grid to actually have the API that it's a field, that it has a value and all that things. So we took a liberty of hiding that a bit. So if you want to, you can use Grid as a field that you can select components and bind it to a form, basically.
You could actually do that with Vaadin 8. You needed to use table there.
Yeah. So you can use that now with using this as single select and multi-select, because that actually then the single and multi-select are interfaces which extend the hash value interface, which is the base field interface.
Yeah. And because of the proper typing, we couldn't actually make Grid implement both of these at the same time.
Yes.
So there we can also add a value change listener.
Yeah.
Event contains now the value as something.
Let's see what's there. So it's event get value, basically.
Yeah, and that returns now.
Returns the value, actually.
Yeah.
But as you see that there's also the add selection listener. So there is a selection listener also in Grid level, but it gets a more generic type of event, because that event might be from single selection or multi-selection. So if you show that event actually has the set of items that has been selected, or you can use the get first selected item to possibly get the first. So you can use that, but
let's actually use this one here. So get first selected item and is present.
Well,
that should do it.
you might want to change it.
I should use kind of a functional style here.
Yeah.
And, but we can probably get the selected value from the Grid directly as well. So Grid get selected
items.
Yeah, so this is getting set still.
Yes.
But and then
So there
it would actually be much cleaner if we just do it like
if you used it.
Yeah, let's do it here.
Yeah.
If value optionals are pretty nice, but sometimes null check is just much more cleaner.
I have an operator there.
Yes. I have been going way too little. Thank you, Siri. And else editor set customer.
I wonder what it's
edit customer.
Edit customer, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And the value there. Okay, that should do it. All right. So now we have.
Do you still have anything red there? No.
Okay. Everything compiles now.
All right.
So if we now reload the page here, we can see that practically nothing has changed, but now this is Vaadin 8 Crud, and this is using the actual, if we check it out, there is probably this placeholder text. Yes. So it's actually using the actual HTML type there. But this part is still Vaadin 7. And
all right, yeah, the editor.
Yeah, but this is actually a very good part of Vaadin 8, the way how we actually upgraded to, made it possible to use the old APIs.
Yeah,
you can now mix and match. If you have some part in your existing application which works very well and you don't want to touch that, leave it there. Write the new parts with the, or parts that you refactor or modify with the new API, and then you get the performance.
If you don't have the time and money to migrate everything, you have a huge application, then you might, but you're still doing active development, you might do it granularly or just for the new stuff. Use
exactly, yes.
So yeah, it's great that it's possible.
All right, shall we try that still?
All right, so the editor.
The editor, this one still has a couple of Vaadin 8 things. Bin field group.
Yeah,
and fields.
Yeah.
And fields are practically the same, but they are very different.
Yeah. Internally, you cannot see just text fields still, but the way that we use them now in the form is a bit different.
We have also vertical layout there, so let's use that, the newer version, then the text field version, and then we had this bin field group. So this is now replaced with binder.
Binder, yeah. So field group, bin field group is now as in Vaadin 8 it's binder.
Yeah, and we should probably use binder here for certain reasons related to fields. So nowadays the buffering and binding, that doesn't happen on the field level. Yeah,
it's now everything, all the magic happens in binder, basically. So the field just consumes a value and gives updates on that, basically. And it has some API for actually defining what's empty value for that field and such. But yeah, all the magic is now really related to forms. It's in the actual binder, not the fields. So it's actually easier to make, I'd say, field component than what it was in.
Much less methods that you actually need to implement and consider. And binder is taking care of all that complex validation.
Exactly.
And those. Yeah. So with binder, you can also do it with the
reading the properties from the bin. Yeah.
So let's use here just the same method that we used with the old one. So bind instance field. So practically we are using reflection here and reading the field implementations from this object and bind those to the customer fields. But you could do that also. You could
do that manually for each field. So binder for field or using field. Bind if you're not doing any validation or conversion in between, then you could use just the bind with the value providers and the setter. And
So getter, so that would be customer. You can use method references here, I guess.
Of course.
Get first name and then the same setter and stuff like that. But I like to use the name-based binding. It's often much simpler. It's
not that for the demo case, it's much faster. Yes.
Yeah, and of course, I'm often using like code generators to generate my Vaadin view. Then I won't make any typos for the last name and first name, which might happen otherwise, of course. Okay, and then to actually set the customer somewhere there. So here we will just use binder now.
Yeah, so the set bin method.
Set bin.
Yeah.
And this makes kind of two-way binding.
Yes. So now it's non-buffered mode basically. So the updates are going to the actual bean directly.
Yeah, and then in the save method we just do that same thing that we did before as well. Okay, now it should be running all Vaadin 8. Now you could get, in theory, rid of those Vaadin 7 legacy packages.
Yeah. So now you could remove those actually from the
manifest. So we shouldn't get any compilation errors anymore if we...
If we didn't do any mistakes, yes.
I think there was one. Font Awesome. Okay, but it's not in the compatibility.
Yeah, Font Awesome is still in the Vaadin server, basically.
Yeah. So it compiles.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because, there's a reason for that. Because if we would have done that, we would have needed to fork also the Valo team into the compatibility teams.
Yes.
But we didn't want to do that because we deprecated all the other teams except Valo.
Yeah.
So Valo is the only team shipping with Vaadin 8 as default because everyone should use that as their base team. And so that's why Font Awesome is still.
Yeah, and for the Valo theme, we actually have, I think it was during last year when we created one example theme which uses exactly the same font size and borders and margins as the old reindeer theme.
Yeah.
So if you still depend on that, you can use this reindeer compatibility or something. And use those variables with Valo, and then it doesn't break anywhere. So you still have those tinier fonts and less margins.
And anyone who has based their team on reindeer, for instance, or Runo, they can still do that and use just the compatibility teams package.
Yeah. So even they are still there.
Yeah, they are still covered. So no problem there.
Yeah. Excellent. Hey, let's go to the questions.
Right.
So we had quite a lot of questions actually this time. It was super popular, the webinar this time.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah. We cannot tackle all of those here and none of the live questions either, but you can add questions more to the forum thread.
Yes.
Pekka and I will look after the forum thread after the webinar and answer the questions there. And you can also, I think it would actually be better if you create a separate thread for those questions.
We then try you can to see the page, all the forum pages, and go through the threads so that we can answer those that we have time for, basically. And hopefully we always get someone to answer those.
Yeah.
But at least now after the...
Yeah, but let's go through a couple of ones before we run out of time. So one question from Gerald was that what's the difference between com.vaadin.default widgetset and com.vaadin.v7.vaadin7 widgetset? That was complicated.
Yes. So the default widgetset is still the default widgetset. It's for all the widgets that ship with the framework.
Yeah.
But basically in the compatibility package, you have the old components. We still have the old client side. Yeah. So for those... Table 3 table, for instance, which don't currently yet have the corresponding version, in a sense, table will never get that because Crud is replacing that. Yeah,
so actually using this default widget alone without these compatibility packages, you will actually get a bit smaller client-side engine as well.
Yeah. But I guess
that's an optimization.
If you migrate, switch to using those new components.
Yeah, and of course this widget that comes from this Vaadin compatibility client that I used there in this example. And if you have add-ons, then you don't need to include this compatibility widget set.
Compatibility client or whatever. So it depends. I mean, some might even convert their add-ons in a way that they have the old compatibility version for migration and then the new version for new Vaadin 8.
Yeah, and actually not all add-ons even need a conversion to Vaadin 8. So
that's true.
So if you haven't been extending fields, for example, then there is a good chance that your add-on might actually work already with Vaadin 8.
Yeah.
So there is actually one task for all add-on developers. So check out if it works currently. If it works, then just go to the directory admin screen and change the compatibility matrix so that it works with 8.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it's actually pretty easy to do at least this kind of a quick and dirty conversion. So you can make it run on Vaadin 7 compatibility packages.
Yeah.
I actually did that for Viridian add-on.
Yeah.
And now you can start migrating even if your Vaadin application is using Viridian. Now you can get to the latest.
Yeah, so you don't get to the problem that you have an add-on that you heavily depend on and it's not migrated yet to 8 or have new APIs. So that,
but there are still a couple of components that I wish to kind of do with the kind of new style APIs as well. So I plan to, at least the abstract form that I've been using, which has all the automatic save and cancel buttons. I plan to migrate that as well to the Vaadin 8. Yes, so that was the difference between default widget sets and Vaadin 7 widget sets. And Alan was asking that what current add-ons are compatible with Vaadin 8.
Yeah, maybe show those.
Yeah, we could actually check out it from the directory. So all the official Vaadin provided commercial and
spreadsheet, test bench, charts, and what am I missing? All the commercial ones. Yeah.
Even actually good old JPA container, which I have suggested for everybody that don't use this add-on. It's pretty handy for some certain cases, but it's not good for your architecture. Don't use it still. But if you still are using it in some parts of your application, it's very easy to migrate to Vaadin 8.
Yeah.
It's now converted for the legacy packages as well.
Yeah.
And then you can actually use the filtering here, so that if you remove all the text filters and then choose Vaadin version for 8. So currently there is only 60 add-ons so far. So there is still a lot of things to do for the community to come up with the latest versions. But so far what I have seen, it's pretty easy to do the conversion. So it's nothing to be scared of. And, and
just take the time to check it and then publish a new version there.
Yeah, and you have to understand that those contributors, they are all there for the open source. If they haven't been converted into Vaadin 8 before you, it's not their fault. So go there and help the add-on authors. So go to GitHub. The source code for most add-ons are in GitHub. Go there, fork it, upgrade it to Vaadin 8, and create a kind of pull request and get the things wheels rolling.
The way open source works, yes.
Yeah, and then Alan also had a very good other question, that how to validate user input using regular expressions, since add validator is no longer available.
Yeah, so it's not anymore in the fields because it's all in the binder, and now you can still just do this even though you have just one field visible. You can use binder for that, and I mean, if for instance you're just using that, you can set the binder type to be a string and you can just bind it.
We could actually play around this with a bit, because we now have this binder here in the editor, and then we have text fields as well. So we could do binder, and instead of adding the validator to the text field, we are adding it to the binder.
Binding.
So we have a four
field
member field, because we are doing the that one, and if we want to add it for first name, then we could just add or
with validator.
So this is Fluent API, so it's starting with, and now you can add validator.
So this is just a callback release. I mean, this is for validator, but I mean, there's the ladder 2 accept.
So we could take maybe this one. So now we can. This is just a predicate, so we could use a string. This is not a regular expression, but you can adapt it very easily there. And then as a second parameter, you gave a string, and this was
which override?
I think this was the message. So
the error message.
The length. And actually, that should be predicate. So let's add like length should be more than 5 letters.
Yes.
And
then you're missing
semicolon. And that's it. Yeah.
And actually that's even possible to get it so that you get actually the locale there in the lambda using the value context. So it was another override which took by function. Yeah.
So very easy actually.
Yes.
Much easier than
and if you have just one field, you have to then create the binder to get the binding to put the validators all converted.
Yeah, so if you have only one field, then it's kind of a bit more difficult.
Yeah, it feels like that, but actually it should be easier. Well, not easier, but still quite easy. Yeah. As you will be doing this quite a lot with other parts of your application also.
Yeah. We are closing the 50 minutes limit here, so we'll take one more question here.
Okay.
And let's take the one from Vignesh. So how does it play with Vaadin No, not with Vaadin. Java E7 and newer.
So we have, the CDI add-on has a compatible version, but I wonder what else does it mean with...
I think it's practically your answer is there.
Yeah,
so CDI is the tool that you use
Yes.
to bind practically everything from Java E technologies together, and that's just valid for the Vaadin as well. So
Yes.
use CDI add-on, then your Vaadin UI classes and all your views and those, they will become CDI managed
yes.
piece, and then you can inject your services there.
Yeah.
AGPs, CDI services, whatever.
So it plays quite well.
Yeah.
It plays quite well.
Very well. So that's very standard stuff for Vaadin. Yeah. Too bad we spent so much time on the examples today, so we don't have any more time to go through the questions, but if some of your pre-submitted questions was not answered here in the webinar, and there was a lot of those, you can add just new questions to the vaadin.com/forum, and let's try to answer those questions there. Okay.
All right.
So let's wrap it up and see you maybe in the Vaadin 8.1 webinar or somebody else from the team.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.